All right. All right, John. Welcome to the Nova University podcast. Would you like to introduce yourself to the people on the podcast? People on the panel and the people listening on to the podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's John Fortier, married with a couple kids outside of Fort Bragg, where I was stationed and just retired out of the Army. I've been investing in real estate for about the past 3 years and now have gone full steam ahead into, working with buyers and sellers and growing out our real estate company. So we're with a lot of
Nice.
investors, a lot of buyers and sellers. But
Nice.
yeah.
And like from growing up, did you always want to join the military at first?
No, not at all, dude.
Really?
So I think I was 8. Yeah, I was 18, when 9/11 happened. And I just flipped a switch, dude. Went to the recruiter's office and said now's the time. So I joined the Army. I'm sorry, I joined the Navy originally, but 6 days before my 19th birthday. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, why'd you switch over from the Navy to like Army wise?
Yeah, so when I started off in the Navy, I did 5 years in the Navy as a CB. So doing, think of it like Army engineers, kind of a lot of construction based stuff. 5 years of doing that, and then I was tired of it, man. I got out and looking for something better. I was only out of the military for about 9 months when I ended up coming back in the Army, and instead, right, to do something that I don't know, I could use my brain a little bit more.
Gotcha. What were you doing those nine
Instead of
months? Like,
construction.
what those 9 months were you doing construction work? Were you working on the job? Like, what was your thought process towards going back? Because a lot of people, when they exit the Army, they try to stay permanently out of the military, out of everything. But what I want to know, what were you doing, and what actually motivated you to go back into it?
Yeah, so I think if the jobs would have worked out really well, I may have stayed out. Who knows? But I did a few odd jobs during that 9 months. I was sandblasting at a mine in Tennessee, and then I ended up just all over the place. Ended up working for the sheriff's department actually in the town where I was at, and I was doing that for a few months. And then I just missed it, man. The civilian life was so much different than what I was used to. I missed the camaraderie. I missed it's crazy it is to say, like, the organization of it all. And I was ready to get back in, man. So yeah, it didn't take
Nice.
me long to decide.
And when you joined the Army, like, what rank did you join back with the same rank, or what did you get back? Or did you expect the same things, or did anything change in your mindset while you're in?
Yeah, so I got out of the Navy as an E4 and came in the Army as an E4.
Mhm.
Um, and I came in as a 68 whiskey, so completely different skill set
You're a
that I was
medic.
looking to focus on. Yeah, I was a medic before. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think I was looking for something where, again, I was building a skill set that I could leverage in the future,
Hmm.
and doing something where I was getting paid for my brain instead of my back is kind of what I was looking for. And
Okay.
it seemed to fit the bill.
Well, and a lot of people want to know is like, what is your perspective on college, right? Because we have a lot of 18-year-olds listening to this podcast, and they always wonder, like, how come you didn't choose college over, or why'd you go to the military versus the college? You know what I mean? Or like, you got out of the military, why didn't you go back into college or whatever? What's your opinion on college?
Yeah, so I'll tell you this. I was actually recently working on a bachelor's program for clinical health sciences, and I was only maybe 8 classes away from finishing out that degree not too long ago, and intentionally decided not to finish. Now, that's not me saying that college is a waste of time, right? But my opinion, like, college is absolutely necessary if you're looking to do certain types of things, right? If you want to be a doctor, go to college, right? If you want to be a lawyer, go to college. I think that there's a lot of opportunities for everyone that does not involve getting a college education or a college degree. At the same time, don't let me be the one who sways you one way or the other. If it's something you want to pursue, you do you. But those are kind of my thoughts.
I like that. And again, a lot of people, they do say the same thing where, uh, why they didn't choose college over certain things and what got them out of their degree, like you said. Uh, how long were you in the military, in the army for after that? You joined in as an E4. You already did 5 years. How long did you stay after?
I stayed 16 years in the Army.
Oh man, so you did your full 20, basically.
Yeah. So I'm still technically active duty. I'm on terminal leave right now,
Hmm.
officially retired in August of this year. So a couple months away.
Congratulations.
I'll be at, I'll be at 21.
What rank are you leaving as?
At E7.
E7. Okay.
Yeah.
And as did you what were the good from you actually done like the 21 years in the army. Uh what would be like the whole summary of the military for you if someone was interested?
Man, it's hard to sum up 21 years in a couple sentences.
Hey, you're
It's,
right.
yeah, it's been a wild experience. I mean, it's been it's been a privilege, to be able to serve. It's been an amazing experience to be able to serve with some of the individuals that I've been able to. Um, I think it's a great opportunity for someone that's young who maybe they don't know what they want to do with their lives, right? Which was kind of like, yes, 9/11 just happened, so it pushed the Patriot button, but at the same time, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So if you're young and looking for something, even if it's just an experience, I think it's an incredible opportunity to pursue. It was a different military 21 years ago though too. So
Oh yeah. And what caused you to stay for 21 years though? A lot of people that, oh yeah, I'm 10 years and done, or just 2 contracts or just 3 contracts and then I'm done. But you did the whole full like 20 plus. What caused you to do that?
yeah, I think it was job satisfaction. I mean, I was a 68 whiskey in the big army for about 5 years and then went to SFAS in 2011. Got selected, went through the Q course and got my Green Beret, right? Earned my tab and went to an ODA. And that was, it was such a desire for such a long time that when I finally got there, I'd almost found my home, if you will. I was surrounded by great, like phenomenally talented individuals that pushed me every day to be just a better me. And finding that job satisfaction, it made me want to. It absolutely is what the reason I decided to stay. I,
Hmm.
I loved it. There's a lot of bullshit like any other job, right? But it's definitely different too, and
Yeah.
I got a lot of satisfaction.
I'm guessing the pros outweigh the cons in your side of the field of being a Green Beret. Uh, and how come you are leaving right now? You're exiting the military. Uh, couldn't you stay for more than 20 years? Why isn't that? It's time to go.
Yeah, I'm tired, Bo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not an easy job. It's a demanding responsibility. It can be really hard on your family life. It's a you have to be 100% committed while you're there. Like if you're not the type that's committed to the cause, right? You're not the type of guy that should be there. Um, you know, I was tired, man.
Mhm.
It's a struggle, dude. It's not easy.
Yeah, I bet. And a lot of people that are already in the military and they want to go through selection in the Q course. Uh, well, not what they can expect, but what do you do as a Green Beret after you done all the courses and everything? Do you go to other countries and train their soldiers, or how does it work as a Green Beret?
Yeah, so it depends. I mean, obviously that's a very large part of what we do, right? It's foreign internal defense is one of our principal tasks, and that involves going to other countries and help training their military forces. And you can definitely expect that, but there's a lot of really unique opportunities within the organization. That is definitely a large part of it. And depending on what the nation is involved in at the time definitely has a vote and kind of how you're utilized. But I can tell you it's a very satisfying thing to be a part of for sure.
Hmm. Okay. And what's causing you to join or become a real estate agent itself? What was that shift to? Or like what woke you up to real estate?
Yeah, that's a wild transition, man. It's
From a Green Beret to real estate agent.
yeah, it's dude, I'm telling you, it's weird because as an agent now, it's very to be honest, there's a lot of things that transfer into it that you wouldn't even realize until you're actually doing it. But about 3 years ago, like December of 2019, well, let's probably even rewind. Left of that a couple years is when I started diving really deep into personal development. Right, like I mean, I think in order to be a successful Green Beret, you have to possess a lot of character traits, and a lot of those, you know, kind of form around, personal development qualities that you would, I guess, associate to that, right? So, are you a disciplined individual? Do you do the right thing regardless if somebody tells you to do it or not? Are you focused? So, let's say about 5 years ago, I really started getting deep into just reading books, man. I started reading random books. I really, as weird as it is to say, kind of fell in love with just knowledge acquisition, right? Just like
Mhm.
learning things. It didn't matter what it was. And it just spiraled down this path that was, real estate and financial freedom. And we decided after one deployment, right? I came back super pumped up on this wild idea of we're going to do real estate and it's going to be the key to success, and jumped into the real estate space as an investor in 2019. And since then it's snowballed even further to now where my wife and I are both licensed. We built the company, and we're continuing to build out the company and grow it to see where we can take it. So
That's nice. And as a Green Beret going to becoming a real estate agent, did you see any transitions back to like civilian life that you were kind of like weirded out by, or is it weird transitioning back to civilian life?
so far so good, man. I mean,
Mhm.
we've been going pretty hard for the past few years. So I haven't really stopped. I mean, it was like almost a seamless transition. I picked up my DD 214 maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks
Yeah.
ago, maybe. And at that point I was already licensed, I was already working with clients, and now it's just a shift in focus towards the company. So there hasn't been a crazy transition in that aspect. And then civilians are civilians. It sounds weird to say, right? But we're all just people.
Hmm.
And as long as you're not a weird human being, you know, it's nothing crazy.
Yeah. And
Nothing too crazy.
oh, are you as I'm guessing you're working with Pints and Properties, right? As a real estate agent, or am I wrong about that?
No, so Pints and Properties is kind of a
Oh,
nested within five
EXP.
pillars.
Yeah.
Within five pillars, and then five pillars is a team within EXP. There's teams within teams. It's pretty wild, but yes, to answer your question.
Yeah. And so you're going to be working with more investors in real estate. How come you chose the investor side versus the homeowner buyer side?
Yeah, so we're doing all of it right
All of it?
now.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're definitely working with traditional home buyers and sellers, and then work with investors as well.
Okay.
So we're kind of a little bit of everything.
Now, what's one problem that you've seen that you've seen has been happening due to the market right now? Are you seeing more people buying houses? Are you seeing more people kind of, not buying houses?
Are we talking traditional home buyers or investors or everybody?
Let's just say everybody right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, interest rates are an absolute deterrent for people buying houses right now. That's the biggest roadblock.
Mhm.
Right. And, specifically in the Fort Bragg area is its own, micro economy. and it hasn't seen like wild shifts in regards to people not buying houses. If anything, it's starting to pick back up even more. This is the season for PCS in the Army, so we're getting a lot of movement in regards to buying and selling. But I would say the traditional, let's say non-soldier PCSing here, those type home buyers, it's definitely slowing down
Okay. And
due to the rates, right? The rates are
yeah,
out of control.
they
So
are out of control right now. And do you see the like for as a real estate agent, what do you see that makes the difference between a good real estate agent and a pretty like a great real estate agent versus a good real estate agent? What is that? What makes the difference between those? Or a real estate agent that's not, they're only getting like one deal a year or whatever. Uh, what do you think keeps them there?
so this is my, my first year as an agent,
Hmm.
but I can tell you what I've seen so far. And this is kind of that, what from my military career have I noticed to, transfer over into the business side of the house. And a big part of that is just standard operating procedures, right? Systems and processes. Do you have systems and processes in place that you stick to that, are designed to help grow your business, right? Help with client interaction. Are you identifying, strategies and techniques, doing your own internal AARs that can help you win contracts, so, I interact with a lot of other agents all the time that are in my same position who, again, it's hard to say, and I don't mean to sound arrogant at all, right? But that aren't maybe doing as well as we have been up to this point. And I think a large part of that is just not having those solid systems and processes in place and not being, willing to just, you have to put yourself out there, right? If nobody knows who I am, then how are they going to know to contact me if they're looking to buy or sell their house, right? And that's a large part of it too. So,
Okay. So you got mostly a lot of your marbles into marketing. What ways of marketing that have you seen helped you out the most?
so up to this point, it's been a lot of just word of mouth, right? Working my sphere of influence, people that I know, talking to, going to meetups, things like that. Having everybody there realize that I'm an agent that can help them. Having that investor back knowledge has been really good for that too, because we speak the same language, right? I've helped a few guys work through, you know, at one point was theories to them that
Mhm.
are now, actualities because we speak the same language. So that sphere of influence has continued to grow. But I'm moving a lot now. I'm trying to make more, social media content. I'm not a social media guy, right? The last social media that I had was MySpace, which
Yeah,
was 100 years ago.
you're pretty old, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So it wasn't until like a year ago that I started jumping on to social media. So
okay, that's
that's a
nice
big
though.
part. Yeah.
Is it awkward doing social media now?
It's whatever, dude. I don't give a shit. Like my theory is we're all gonna die. Like who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Right. If you don't like it, in 100 years, we're all gonna be dead. It's not gonna matter.
Yeah, can you
So
speak more upon that? Like the being, because I know you've done a good presentation at Pines Properties about that. Could you talk more about how people can live life like that? Like, hey, you're gonna die one day. Might as well do it.
yeah, I mean, my thoughts are really it's that simple, dude. In 100 years, right? Everybody that we've ever known or ever loved, cared about, whatever, is gonna be fucking dead, regardless if we like it or not. Like just embrace that as the one truth in life. And if you want to do something, don't worry about the judgment of others. Don't let that be the reason that you don't decide to take action and do something. Just live your life, man. Be comfortable in the fact that everybody on this thing watching this right now is going to be dead and it's not going to matter one day.
That is true.
Yeah,
And
like who gives a shit?
and what about people that think like life is like a hey, but in order for me to become, I'll play devil's advocate a bit. They're like, hey, John, for me to become rich and successful, I have to go to college, do 4 years there, and then if I want to become a high earning figure, I got to do 10 more years of schooling to get a PhD, and then apply to this dental school so that I can, or this dental uh, hospital or whatever, and become that surgeon for that place. Like, but that's gonna by the time I'm like 40, I'm still paying back my debt, my uh, and I'm making six figures, but I like this is how life is though. You know what I mean? What would you say to me if I think of my life as like a linear way and not exponentially? Like, oh, I don't think I can do the real estate thing, or I don't think I can do that because I'm not really skilled at that part.
I'd probably ask you first, like, what, why do you want to be a doctor? Why do you want to be a dentist? Why do you want to do those programs?
They're gonna be like, oh, because I've seen on the internet that those are the high earning figures. Like if you look up on the internet what makes the most money, that's what pops up.
Yeah, which it might be true, right? It's definitely a high earning career field. So then, I would try to figure out like, well, what makes you happy? What do you really enjoy doing? Like, is
Man,
that something that you're chasing after just for the financial aspect of it, or is there something deeper?
well, I'll keep playing devil's advocate here. Well, my parents, they told me, hey, I got to go to school, got to get a good degree. Uh, and my passion is I like playing drums, but you can't make money off of that. So I got to really stick to being a doctor just so I can make my parents proud and I can make good money and not worry about financial stuff.
Yeah. So, yeah, a couple things. One, the world needs fucking good doctors and dentists and things like that, right? So
Yeah.
if everybody decides not to pursue those career paths, we're all fucked, right? We need those career paths. So yeah, maybe you should do that. Um, at the same time, look, it's the cycle of life, right? You grow up, you move out of the house, you do something with your life. Your parents have these expectations maybe of you. Yes, you want to maintain those relationships, but at the end of the day, like, you have one shot at this thing, right? And it doesn't matter who wants you to do what. If it does something that makes you happy, you have to realize that. You have to realize that we have a short amount of time on this planet, in this thing we called life. Like, do something that makes you happy. And to be honest, maybe initially when you start out, you have to do shit that doesn't make you happy.
Hmm.
Like, that's a truth, right? Life isn't just, hey, fucking go find something and that makes you real, you find a lot of passion and do that and nothing else. Like, no, maybe you have to get a fucking shitty job that you don't like and you have to suck it up and do it. And that's a stepping stone, right? It'll build your character. It'll set you up initially from a financial perspective so you can later, pursue your passion.
Nice.
It doesn't mean you can't.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And how would you recommend someone living? Um, for example, a lot of old people like that. They did a study where like their biggest regret is not living uh, to their full potential, right? Having those choices where, man, I wish I would have done this or I wish I would have done that. That's one of those their bigger regrets. So how can you recommend somebody like to live life without regrets, but not fully yellowing, right? Because I
Yeah.
tend to tell people like, hey, you got to live in the moment, but also plan for the future. But they're like, okay, how am I supposed to do that? Like they're like, I'll play devil's advocate again, John. They're like, okay, for me to
Yeah.
be happy, John, hookers and cocaine, right? What about
Yeah.
that? I could do that now and be happy, but uh, well, like, but you're telling me that I still got to worry about the future, but I don't even know what's gonna happen in the future. But I could do it. I could be happy right now if I wanted to. Uh,
Yeah.
but I don't know how to plan for the whole future and how do I know like people I see this a lot too where people they're happy during their graduation, right? Whether it's high school, whether it's college, or their military graduation from basic training, they're happy at that point because they've seen like this is supposed to be joyful, right? People are here to look at you. They're supposed to, uh, people are there to look, like give you their attention. And I think that's where people like it the most. And after that, they're like, oh shit, like this is where life's really serious, right? Or like whenever someone gets their DD 214, they're like, yes, I finally got out. Nice. And now they're like, okay, what am I supposed to do afterwards? They don't think about that. They just think about, oh, I'm excited now. So how do you explain to someone like kind of have like that weird mindset shift where yes, be happy now, but don't go into that YOLO type of mentality.
Yeah, it's tough. I would say first off, if you think about what you just said, right? We go through, we have these experiences, and at the end of that experience is where we find kind of that joy and satisfaction, right? We're kind of happy in the moment. Something came to fruition. Well, realize that joy and fulfillment and happiness and all that stems from putting in effort towards achieving that goal, right? And then
Mhm.
it's like that old saying, like, don't rest on your laurels, right? And I'm not like a historian by any means, but right, the laurels were like the Roman headgear of, they'd get it after winning a battle or something. I don't know. I could be way the fuck off
I don't
base,
even know what that is, a
but
laurel. What is
yeah,
it?
but essentially it's like, don't rest and be satisfied on your previous victories,
Okay.
right? So as we have these experiences, right, these little joys and victorious events is when we celebrate and we're happy in the moment. And that's how we got there, right? Through hard work, through doing something challenging. So that's what's going to lead you to the next thing, right?
Mhm.
Find something, identify some sort of goal, something that, is just out of reach, that seems almost intangible, and strive to pursue that path until you get that. It's definitely not about living in the moment, right?
Mhm.
Uh, yes, be happy with where you are, but know that there's so much more than that. I don't
Eh,
know. I don't think that answered your question at all.
no, no, you're right in your way of like, hey, like think about the grind that you're put in. Like I always think of that Kobe quote, like, is the job finished, right? If it's not finished, I keep going, right? Um,
Yeah.
uh, that's what I go through in my head. And whenever I think about doing certain things, or whenever I do get an achievement, I'm like, there's a bigger mountain to climb, right? This is the only like the mountain that I just climbed. It's not the biggest mountain yet. There's like if I found the cure for cancer or whatever, that's I'll be happy, but I just still know like, hey, there's a bigger mountain out there. There's always gonna be a bigger mountain, or like how Arnold said it. Um, he's never satisfied with his strength because he always pictured a little girl in Vietnam lifting way more than he does. So he's like, yeah, this is not the total. I can get way more stronger than this. So he puts
Yeah.
that through his head where you can get way more better. Um, and maybe that also does come with ego in a way, but sometimes ego can be good as well. And I wanted to know, like, do you own some properties right now, John?
Yeah. So we have a few long-term rentals and one short-term here in Fayetteville.
Okay. Uh, what got you to uh invest yourself as well instead of because the real estate aspect is making money, but how come you're doing the whole passive income thing?
Yeah. So it came from that, 5 years ago, reading and reading and reading and stumbling into the investor space, getting knowledgeable and realizing, like, fuck, my army days are going to end, faster than I think. Right. So
Mhm.
I was at around the 17-year mark when we pulled the trigger and bought the first one. And it was strictly a financial decision, right? Everything up to the point of pulling the trigger and buying our first property was theory. It was concepts. It was something that somebody else had done, and the math made sense.
Mhm.
Uh, and when we decided to execute, it was really based on just knowledge with no experience. But at the end, it was for, we need to make money while we sleep, and that was another avenue to do that.
Nice. I like that. And why short term as well?
Well, I mean, the short term that we do right now is just we're house hacking. and it's been really, really good. Other than
Okay.
that, we've been in the long-term space the whole time. We haven't short-termed any of them. Because I needed a kind of a set it and forget it solution, because I was still, going on training rotations, going on deployments. Like I didn't have time to put a whole lot of bandwidth into keeping those things going.
Hmm. And how are you, uh, can you explain to people like what is house hacking and how are you house hacking? What's your term?
Yeah. So, probably the easiest explanation of house hacking is, you buy a property that has more space in it than you need, and you're able to rent out that space you don't need to somebody else. Right. And that can come through maybe doing it room by the room. Think about like a college type setting, or just roommates when shit's rough and you're young, right? You rent an apartment together, you and a couple buddies, and you all split the rent.
Mm.
Same concept. So for us, we started investing prior to becoming, real estate brokers. And, we had acquired a few properties along the way. And as we gained more knowledge, we're like, damn, we're missing out on an opportunity to house hack. So we ended up moving solely for the purpose of finding a place that we could house hack. So we found a place that fit the bill and moved, and then kept our previous residence as a rental. But in a nutshell, that's it. You're renting some shit out to somebody else.
Nice. And are you short terming? Is it like a duplex that you live in, or is it like
Uh,
upper and lower?
it's a yeah, upper lower space with some pretty easy separations. It had all the stuff that we were looking for, that allowed us to house hack. So,
Mhm.
you know, I guess to get into that, right? Like it's an upstairs, downstairs type, setup. And the downstairs had its own plumbing. It had its own bathroom, right? So full bathroom, toilet, shower, the full bath. And it also had washer and dryer hookups down there, which were huge, right? So we just outfitted it with a complete kitchen, and essentially it functions as a studio apartment with its own access. We essentially turned it almost into a duplex that's on 1 meter.
Mhm. And do you always have to meet the guests while you're doing that, or is it
No,
really okay?
no.
Is there any
There's
like
months that
go ahead?
I was gonna say there's months that go by that people just come and go, and I don't even meet them. And a lot of that goes back to what I said in the beginning, right? Systems and processes, man. Like from choosing the right locks, from choosing the right programs, having everything. We do everything on Airbnb, so I don't even mix it up by putting it on VRBO or any of these other platforms. Everything's on Airbnb, and as long as your systems and processes are straight, like there's been months I haven't met who was living down there.
Mhm. Do you ever like do analysis on your Airbnb, like, or do you just only use the Airbnb software?
I just use the software. There's been a few times where I've had people that I know that are coming up here for certain reasons
Hmm.
that will book it, and then I'll just take payment then
Hmm.
in person. So we kind of circumvent, some of the short-term platforms, so we don't have to pay, their fees or dues. Um,
That's pretty cool. I like that. And is it just people that you know already?
yeah.
Okay,
Well, I mean, a couple of them that I haven't, but they've been other soldiers that have been up here for schools and things like that.
that's nice. And now can you tell the audience what your why is and how they can find theirs as well?
Mm. Yeah, I think it goes back to, if we don't figure out how to make money, I mean, this isn't my saying, right? I've heard it somewhere, stole it from somewhere, I'm sure.
Hmm.
But if we don't figure out how to make money while we sleep, we have to work until the day we die, right? And that's not my plan. At the end of the day, our end state is, what we're talking about in the beginning. I want to buy a big plot of land. I want to live in the middle of nowhere, grow my own food, raise my own food, little shooting range, all that. I want the whole thing, right? That's my why. So I'm doing this shit to fund that. That's it.
Hmm.
It's a means to an end for me. But I would think, to find your own, it's worth just sitting down and putting some intentional time towards thinking about what you want to get out of life. Right? Sit down with a little notebook, take some notes, and just let your mind wander and write down things that you find that make you happy. And then once you find that, go after it, man. Don't let anybody talk you out of it.
I like that. Um, and now we can move on to the ending questions here, John. So if you can go back in time and tell your younger self something, what would it be?
Hmm. Don't be stupid with money. Don't be stupid with money. Right?
Mm,
We're all young. We all kind of go through it at some point where, I when I came in the military, I didn't grow up with any money. So like my consistent money was when I came in the military, and I was like, oh shit, I could just get what I want now, which is a bad way to live. Uh, it's important to be frugal and understand that money is a tool, and the way you use it will determine your future for sure. So I try to get my younger self to wrap my head around that concept.
nice. Well, what age were you like not spending, where you were like kind of spending a lot more money than you should?
Oh, probably early 20s.
Early 20s?
Yeah. Yeah. Early to mid 20s. Like, I need a new car. Like, I need this. Like, that would be dope. Right. Let me buy
Yeah.
this thing. It's pretty cool. It's legit. I'll get that. And then, like, yeah, mid to late 20s, I'm like, fuck, I'm fucking broke, dude. Like, yeah, I can make payments on a bunch of shit and afford payments, but that's not a way to live, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
No, that's 100% right. And uh, what would you like to ask your future self? What question? Say 10
oh,
years from now
dude,
or 20.
that's deep. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. What would I ask my future self? Like, did I make it?
That's
Yeah.
everybody. Did I make it?
Did I figure it out? Like, knowing what you know now as my future self, what should I be doing today?
Hmm.
Where should I put my focus? Because it either turned out the way I wanted or it didn't. So where do I need to bump steer right now to get what we want?
Hmm. No, that's 100% right. And what do you think the secret sauce is into becoming very successful? If there is a secret sauce,
Mm,
doesn't have to be a secret, actually.
yeah. I think it's just I think really it's just putting in the work, man. It really is. Like, a lot of people call it, oh, it's discipline. Oh, it's like the ability to focus. Like, we know what we need to do,
Hmm.
right? If you have an idea today, like, you know, let's say you've never invested, right? And you hear this and you hear something about house hacking and it resonates with you, you know, don't just let it pass by, right? Dig into it and start doing research, right? That's kind of where it starts, right? Like, putting in the work starts with that. You have a thought, you have an idea, something you want to pursue, start doing it immediately. And you're gonna hit a roadblock. And usually there's a roadblock that comes along that is almost a showstopper, right? It gets like, it feels almost like it's not worth it, right? Like,
Hmm.
oh, this shit is too fucking hard. Like, I can't figure this out. That's the time to like double down and put in that's where you start putting in the work, right? That's the work that matters. So, I would say a lot of people aren't willing to do what's hard. A lot of the times we all face it. And it's when you can do that that you'll start to make those strides in the right direction.
I like that. I like that. And is there a quote that you live by?
It's funny. It's like sometimes like my own inner dialogue is like, when shit gets hard, right?
Hmm.
I usually just tell myself, like, well, no one's going to do it for you. And it kind of resets. Like, I have an idea, or shit's hard, or like you're tired. Like, well, literally nobody is going to fucking do it for you.
Yeah.
And that just kind of resonates with me to like, all right, well, shit, I guess I got to do it.
Oh, I like that. So you're just taking a lot of the responsibility to yourself, not being the
Yeah.
victim mindset.
Yeah.
Is there any books that you would recommend for people, whether certain parts of your life that helped you out?
Yeah. Tons of books, man. I think the Compound Effect
Hmm.
by Darren Hardy's really good. It's a great way to kick off, you know, the right mindset, right? I mean, Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad's huge. Like I don't I've read Atomic Habits is really good.
Hmm.
Um, I would say that, you know, though, maybe you're not an avid reader and maybe you're a podcast guy or a Kindle books or audiobooks guy or whatever. I think that it is easy to, you know, when you're starting to move down this, um, you know, I don't want to say productivity. What's the word I'm thinking of? Like this personal achievement. What's the word?
Personal development.
Yeah, personal development, right? I
Hmm.
think it's very common when you start moving down this path of personal development, things will snowball and you'll start to be in this like consumption mode, right? Where you
Hmm.
have to listen to everything, you have to read everything, you have to talk to everybody, listen to every podcast. But at the end of the day, you don't end up doing shit, right? You're just consuming other people's information,
Hmm.
right? And this is another thing that I kind of remind myself as or of, you know, we see all these, you know, these, let's say bigger personalities. I don't want to say celebrities because most of them are fucking goobers, in my opinion. Right. But there's a lot of inspirational people, right? Like the celebrities, whatever. But anyways, we see these people that have done these amazing things and we almost discredit our own capabilities, right? Like we put these people on a pedestal and it's like, oh my God, that's the guy. Dude, like you could be that guy, right? So we consume all their shit, right? And so to bring it back full circle, we get in this consumption mode and we don't ever get on the like take action mode,
Yeah, they're always in
right? So
that paralysis analysis stage.
yeah, and it's just like input, and there's no, you don't even give yourself time to think sometimes and really digest the information that you're hearing
Hmm.
and analyze how you can put it into play, into effect in your own life, when in reality that's why that thing was written or spoken about, right? So you could use it as a nugget of something to move you forward.
Okay.
Anyways,
What about the opposite? Someone that does everything, but they don't take time to learn or anything.
yeah, I mean it's just as dangerous, right? um I think you know, my wife's been an agent a little bit longer than me. Okay. And last year, the market was insane. People were just throwing money at shit. Right. And we're starting to see some stuff now where people are, you know, people are starting to do that again. And when we're analyzing the deals, we're like, that shit doesn't fucking make any sense.
Hmm.
Like, that is not a deal, dude. Like, I don't know what where their mindset's at to think that that's a good deal. um and maybe it's that type of personality where people are just like, I got to execute, I got to get a deal, I got to find something, I got to get a house, I got to buy. Be like, bro, you need to relax, make sure you know what you're doing, and then take action in that right direction, bump steer along the way, right?
Hmm.
It's definitely a balanced approach to life. It can't be one and it can't be all the other either.
No, I agree with that. Uh, and from, is there anything, before I go to this, the last two questions here, does anybody on the panel have questions so far? Just, raise your hand, whatever, or just say,
I got a question.
go, Jaden.
John, you said at one point you was just like you was broke at your early 20s, right? Whenever you was in that stage, did you ever have like a greed for money? Like, was you willing to almost do anything to make more?
Oh, yeah, dude, first off, you're yoked as fuck. I need to go start going to your gym, dude.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Um, Dude, I've been a hustler since I was a kid, man. But what I found is, just because I was willing to grind and do whatever it took to make money, I still wasn't using it in the right way. Like I didn't understand how to use the tool, right? Like, you could hand a kid a socket wrench and they're going to do something like this, right? They're just going to spin it around and turn it into a noisemaker. Like they don't know how to use that tool effectively. And that's the way I was with money at a young age, right? It was a toy. It was like a new thing because I never had it. Now I'd always get it and make it, right? And then I would just misuse it. I'd blow it on some shit that is not designed to make you financially free. It's not, you know what I mean? That those things, those habits with money are not going to set you up for the future.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that answered your question. Yeah, I've always been a hustler.
For sure, for sure. And one more question. Do you ever feel like it'll be a stopping point for you from making money? Like you just like, oh, I'm settled to what I got. I'm good.
Man, that's an interesting question, dude. I've been pondering this a lot lately. Yeah, so I don't think there's ever going to be a stopping point, right? I think once you turn it on, it's on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think the level of intensity that is geared towards making money is going to dramatically change. Right. Like initially we start this out and it's, how do we get out of the rat race? Which is essentially like, at what point does my passive income exceed my living expenses? Right. If we were to define the rat race. Right. Well, in order to do that, oftentimes we turn into the type of individual that, they've had to grind to get there. They had to really work and bust their ass to get there, right? They had to hustle. So you're a different person at that point. But then it turns into a new, like a new problem. We're not in the rat race of, quote unquote life anymore, but we're in the rat race of, creating businesses and seeking more money and more money, right? For the sake of you're winning the game, right? You're playing the game and you're winning the game and you enjoy it. You get something out of those little wins, right? So I think it's an almost seamless transition that keeps you stuck in some form of just running this circle for things that don't necessarily make you happy or bring you joy. Right. So when I've thought about this a lot, I thought about it a lot lately because, again, I think I'm always going to do it. I'm always going to hustle to an extent. Right. But my focus in this next chapter of my life, I'm putting myself on a 5-year path. After this next 5 years, it's going to be make smart decisions and ensure that I fucking keep what I've got. Right. So my level of risk tolerance is going to be much, much lower than what it's been up to this point.
For sure, for sure. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Go ahead with the question.
Yeah, I got a question because you said that you want to do things with lower risk, but when you were talking about we're all gonna die anyway, how can you don't have the same mentality with that?
Well, it's a different level of risk, right? It's like, you can't YOLO your face off, dude. Right? In that case, it would be hookers and blow, like we were talking about earlier. Right?
Yeah.
Like you have to be smart with your decisions. I know I'm gonna die. I could die tomorrow, or I could die in 50 years. I don't think I got 50 years left in me, but it could be. Right? I want to make sure I'm not, broke and alone and having to beg for change for the next 50 years, right? So you got to be smart. You got to be smart through the process. So when I say risk reduction, I'm not going to be maybe throwing money at an investment that the numbers are really tight, it might not work out. Like, nah, I'm good, I'll wait, I'll stack some cash, I'll make smarter decisions, because at the end, I don't want to lose what I have.
Yes. I want to put
Does that
something on.
answer your question?
I want to put something on that as well. because John is at a different stage of his life as well. When he's talking about, let's say he's more of a matured investor versus someone that's immature about it, right? Don't get that mixed up. That means that a novice versus someone that's experienced. And for example, when John said about is the deal going to work out? Like it's tight. As a novice, someone that has the energy, someone that's in their 20s, you could be like, okay, I could probably work this one out. If I just do most of the work myself, I could save 20 grand, right? That could be a deal for you versus John, who's like a little older. He's like, man, I don't really want to blow my back out for this shit. How about I just pay this person? But the money's still not working. I'm good, right? So for different stages of your life, you're gonna have different decisions that you're gonna make. For him, he's at a stage where he's making that money, and he has the option to say no to whether it's a tight deal, whether it's a bad deal, or even a good deal. He'll say no because he just doesn't like the location, right? But if you're a novice, you're like, hey, I just want to get started. I just want to do it. I don't care if I got to burn my feet off or burn my hands off doing this. Let me see how far I can get. But I'll tell you, once you're done that, and a lot of people, they do have somewhat of like that inner regret, like, oh man, they'll be like 20 years in the future. They have like what, like 20 properties, like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that with my first property. But you can't say that because you haven't really, because that's the one that kind of pushed you to do all this. You know what I mean? That's how time works. You have to do one thing to get to the next place. Yeah. You didn't have, I call it like you didn't have the, what is it called? The time debt, right? Like you can't pay off that time debt if you haven't experienced it. Like, yeah, in 20 years from now, you're gonna learn a lot more about real estate than you did when you first started. So you really can't go back in time unless you pay off that time debt of getting to that point. So for you to get to that point where you have 20 properties, you actually have to go ahead and experience let me break my back for this. Let me do all this just so I can make sure that this will work out. But for example, John here, he doesn't have to. He can have that choice. And his risks are a lot higher. He has kids, he has a family. You could be probably like a 20-year-old living under his mom's basement. No, not saying that's a bad thing, but it's like you don't have as many risks than you think. So you can go, you in your 20s, you can go bankrupt and be good, but because you got to wait 7 years. But if you're in your 40s and you go bankrupt, you're like, shit, it's gonna be a little tough. I gotta do something around here. So it depends where you're at in the stages of life, is my opinion on that. And Pan here asked, John, what is your biggest regret so far?
I wish I didn't figure this shit out, earlier in my 20s. Man, I wish for whatever reason, it just wasn't my time, right? Like man, if I was in my 20s right now, bro, I would live in a fucking closet and just hustle. I'd put my blinders on. Like if the numbers made sense, I'd fucking, read books, learn math. Does it pencil out? If not, how can I make it a deal, right? How can I make it pencil out? And maybe that's hustle and fucking get after it, dude. And I would say fuck parties, fuck playing around. Like all my free time would be towards building my financial future, dude.
I like that.
So that's one of my biggest regrets, man, and it's not a regret, right? Because it's just the way life is, dude. You're going to do stuff now that you wish you didn't do when you're 50, right? You're going to wish. Everyone's going to die with regrets. That's part of the game. But yeah, I wish I would have figured this out when I was young, dude. I wish we had this, right? And I know it makes me sound really old, and I don't mean to sound like one of those old dicks. Like the internet wasn't a big thing when I was 18. You know what I mean? We had the dial-up shit. And now look at this, bro. Information at our fingertips. Like, so if you're young and you're hearing this, now is the time. Quit fucking around.
Yes, sir. And like to actually beat a lot of this stuff about, man, I wish I knew about this stuff. I always say just read more books. If you read more books, you'll actually beat off that time debt a lot quicker than you think. And the final questions here, is there anything that you would like to tell your children, John, if they listen to this back like in 20 years? They're in your position. how old you are. How old are you, by the way? Never asked.
Yeah, I'm 40.
You're 40. Yeah.
So
Let's say
I'm still pretty young, dude.
yeah, you're a pretty young guy. Yeah. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
Let's say they're 40 and they look back on this. What would you like to tell them?
If I was talking to them and they're now 40,
Mhm.
man, that's a tough question, dude. I don't know, without making it too like sentimental, there'd probably be a lot of sentimental things I would say if I
Yeah.
wasn't on the internet, right?
Mhm.
But in regards to this, I don't know. I would hope that that I was the example that they needed, right? I would hope that I set the example well enough that has allowed them to be successful on their own, and just understand, like, just because you're 40, it's not over. You still got a lot of work to do.
Man, that's good right there. That's a great gem right there. And how can people reach out to you and give value back to you?
Yeah, so we're doubling down big in the transaction aspect of real estate, right? So if you run into guys that are interested in house hacking, right? I love connecting with other Army dudes that are trying to figure this shit out, right? And hopefully I can pass what I've learned on to them and get them light years ahead of where I am. But our website is rangetorealestate.com. I'm on Instagram as John the Investor. So John _the_investor. We have a Facebook page that's Range to Real Estate, and just my personal Facebook page, John Fortier, Fortier. Yeah, if you guys follow along, I'm starting to put a little bit of more content out there to help the basic classic kind of home buyer. And I'd love to connect with dudes to help them get started in investing while they are young. I get a lot of passion from doing it.
Like that. I like that, John. And again, thank you for coming to this podcast. You're amazing.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.